Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church in Eugene, where empowered by love, we transform ourselves and serve our world. My name is Reverend Lois Van Leer, she, her, hers, and joining me today in creating worship, the theme of which is play, is our ministerial intern, Jennifer Hackett, who comes to you not from Nashville, Tennessee, but from her office right here at the church for the first time all year. Suzanne Giordano, our collaborative pianist in our sanctuary, our worship associate, Chris Olson, and Izzy Kreka, our hymn leader, and behind the scenes, working tech, Kat Johnson. To those of you who are new to us, welcome. To those of you who are returning after time away, welcome. To those of you who are here week after week, deterred neither by COVID or Zoom, welcome. We invite all of you into this time and space, a place of meaning making and exploration, a time of sanctuary or rest, a time out of time, into a place of comfort, sustenance, and nurture. Come, for all is ready. We have been waiting for you. Welcome.
Hello, everyone. We have a few announcements for you today. Next Sunday on the 13th, there will be a ministerial internship conclusion celebration for me here at the church from 3:30 to 5. But before that, if you'd like to see not just my torso, but also my feet, I'll be leading group walks at Maury Jacobs Park on Wednesday at 2:30 and at Hendricks Park on Saturday at 1:30. See the weekly connections for specific meetup locations, and everyone is welcome to join. The next week, there will be a celebration for Rev Lo. It will be her last day on the 20th. As you know, she is a rock hound. She's not listening right now, by the way, she took her hearing aids out. As a farewell tribute to her on June 20th, we are asking each household to bring a small decorated rock or a super cool natural rock to add to a basket for her to remember us. There will also be a basket for cards. If you're not able to attend in person on June 20th, rocks can be put in a basket on the bench, little rocks, okay, by the north, which is the kitchen door of the church, and cards can be put in the drop box next to the door or mailed to the church between now and June 20th at our address. In other announcements, today, Challenging Racism, everyone is welcome to meet with us at 11:30. And young adults are having our last meeting of the church year this Wednesday at 5:30. See weekly connections for more information, or just contact me. 3 weeks from now, we will be participating, this is on June 27th, with all other UU congregations across the land in a live closing worship service from General Assembly, our nationwide annual meeting. Because of this, the service for one day only will be at 9 a.m. That's on the 27th, not in the next few weeks. We're always welcoming visitors, and we're so glad that you're here with us. The visitor form is being dropped into the chat now. And if you take time to fill that out later, it will help us to get to know you better and serve you as best we can. We're so glad you're here, everyone. Welcome.
This chalice lighting is written by Reverend Scott Taylor. Let this dancing light be our guide. Let it lure us into letting go of the worries, of the stiffness that sets in after all the striving, of the myth that productivity alone gives us purpose. This garden of life we've been given is a playground. The weeding can wait. Please join us in singing hymn number 16, "'Tis a Gift to Be Simple." Ready? Yep.
Well,
Our call to worship today is by Reverend Scott Taylor. We are all playing. We are all playing it up, playing it down, trying to play it fair, playing for keeps, playing favorites, playing it safe, sometimes too safe. He plays hardball. They're playing house. I'm playing it by ear, or at least learning to play it by ear. She's tired of playing second fiddle. He's playing right into their hands. Please, God, can't we just all throw out the playbook and start again? Sometimes we're just played out. It's not always bad to play possum. What about playing with fire? Let's hope so, friends. Don't you want to feel that burning within and let it loose? In this moment, may it begin. We take a short break from playing today to encourage people to follow the fifth principle and choose to vote for your church leaders and vote on the budget and to amend our bylaws to include the eighth principle. Your ballots have been sent to you. Our readings today are a series of 3 quotes on the topic of our monthly theme of play. The first is from Charles Schaeffer. We are never more fully alive, more completely ourselves, or more deeply engrossed in anything than we are when we're at play. Next is Jane Mcgonagall. The opposite of play isn't work, it's depression. And the last, from Pablo Neruda. A child who does not play is not a child, but the one who does not play has lost forever the child who lived within them and who they will miss terribly.
The Khasi Hills are an area in northwest India in the state of Meghalaya. In this area, there is a thriving community of Unitarians, accounting for 98% of India's nearly 10,000 Unitarians. Walking around the town there, one of the towns, you will see the chalice symbol on the gates of homes. In that area, you don't greet someone with the greeting namaste, but rather you say kuble. The story of the Khasi Hills and its association with Unitarianism is fascinating, but it's a story for another sermon. But it was to this community that the Reverend Jill McAllister, a Transylvanian colleague, and his wife, Lori, and I traveled to share leadership of a youth conference titled, How Shall We Live? We were going there at the invitation of the leadership of the Khasi Hills Church. And unlike other areas of India, the Khasi Hills are cool and at night downright cold due to their location in the mountains and the fact that they don't heat the buildings. So a signature item of clothing that is worn by both men and women, or anybody, any gender, is a blanket that's worn wrapped around one's upper body. Here in this culture, a youth is defined not by their age, but by marital status. If you're unmarried, you're a youth. So our youth participants ranged in age from 6 to their late 20s. And for the first part of the conference, we all gathered each day in a social hall for what amounted to lectures given by clergy from both the US and Transylvania and India. The youth sat attentively and politely. And in the back sat the elders of the community, observing and sometimes commenting. Then Lori and I got to do our thing. We immediately started playing outdoor movement games with the youth. The elders, uninterested, left. And these formerly quiet, polite youth came alive, eagerly participated and yelled and encouraged one another and laughed and laughed and laughed. Almost all of the games required the youth to work together. How were they going to get each and every one of them up and over a string that was tied between 2 trees from one side to the other? It became an exercise in brainstorming, trial and error, cooperation, and much hilarity. And slowly from those games, we became a nascent community forming across cultural differences. There's a saying that you can discover more about a person in an hour of play than in a year of conversation. Why? Because play is about creativity, imagination, spontaneity, interaction, boundaries, teamwork, relationships, return to elemental connection, learning. It's often our first learning about how to negotiate the world, disappointment, and fairness. It's how children explore their world. Play is revelatory. Introverted, shy, quiet people can become unrecognizable, turning into sharks circling, waiting to strike. Play isn't just about all work and no play makes a boring person. It's about play being one of the earliest ways we humans make meaning in and of our world. Play is foundational in our becoming and developing. A Dutch cultural historian, Johan Huizinga, wrote, "In play, we move below the level of the serious, as the child does, but we can also move above it, in the realm of the beautiful and the sacred." Many religious traditions include teaching or moralistic stories that are revealed through play and plays, enacting the range of the human condition. From play emerges the sacred. Early on in a 19-day raft trip on the Colorado River through the Grand Canyon, I earned the name Bail Bucket Bad Girl because I took any opportunity I could to start water fights between our three rafts, using our bail buckets as my tool to douse my friends in the other rafts. I mean, it was hot, but it was exhausting because those 5-gallon buckets filled with water are hard to lift and aim and release. Now, mind you, this was a group of women in our 40s and 50s in the helping professions, acting like children. Sure, it was fun. Sure, it bonded us, but it also opened us up through laughter. And that openness allowed us to go deep, both physically and metaphorically, into that canyon and into the sacred gifts it had to offer. There's a section of rock walls in that canyon. It's called the Vishnu Schist, and it's the smooth, crystalline rock, black and pink. The boat I was in floated right up to those walls, and each of us literally tried to hug those rock and let ourselves be hugged by it. Some of that rock was formed 1.8 billion years ago. It was magical and mystical. There would be many more such playful times, and even more times of awe, wonder, and reverence, an experience of the sacred. Those 19 days were transformational. Sometimes we laugh until we cry because both are stress responses and stress relievers. On a kayak trip to Baja, our group, many of whom had been on the Colorado River trip together and on other such adventures, learned that one of our guides, a young woman, was getting married soon. So we helpfully decided to throw her a bachelorette party one night. Now, pulling that off required a great deal of creativity and resourcefulness and group effort. It was as bawdy as any other bachelorette party sans alcohol. We all laughed uproariously. Afterwards, as the sky filled with stars and we were covered by night, a few of us stood by the young guide, still giggling. Then she said, "Uh-oh," and burst into tears. This young woman's mother had died recently. And so at one of the most meaningful markers of her life, she would be motherless. Knowing this, our group of wild women took it upon ourselves not to be her mother, but to offer her the strength and the presence of strong women. And so I held her until she no longer needed holding. June McMaffin, a Canadian clergy person and author, wrote, "From the Greek word selig, which means blessed, comes the English word silly. I like to think that there is something sacred about the ability to be silly, to play, to laugh, and be childlike." And that group of women who I have traveled with in all sorts of places have showed up again for one another and for others time and time again through sacred play. We laugh until we shed tears of release, of the pain, and of joy. So I hope that I'm building the case here for the importance of play, not only in the lives of children, but in the lives of all persons at all ages. For to lose play is to lose something vital about being human. We are diminished without it. As Peter Pan sang, if growing up means it must be beneath my dignity to climb a tree, I won't grow up. Never grow up. Not me. It's supposed to be not I, Peter. Play today is different than it was for those of us who are over 60 when we were children, because it's rare to live in a place now where children can be left in each other's company most of the day to roam and explore outside, only to be called home for dinner at the end of the day. Many children do most of their playing indoors or online. We now have play dates, arranged times for children to spend with one another, with another child. That's how children seem to play these days. We who are old didn't have play dates. We had friends who we, not our parents, arranged to come over. There was much more spontaneity and less checking of one's Google Calendar before play could commence. And toys weren't necessary to play. Games were often made up from our imaginations. There certainly wasn't the abundance of toys that required special batteries to operate and entertain. As an adult, I have used rocks on sandbars to play bocce ball. Sitting on the beach in Baja, we have played hard by just batting a balloon around. My point is that an integral part of play is creativity and imagination, to take what is unadorned and make something up from it. So much of play today seems to come prepackaged. Sit down and consume. Where's the joy in that? Where's the learning in that? Where's the meaning in that? Last week, I did a quick trip up to Seattle to meet my 2-week-old grandson, Rorik, and to hang out with his 17-month-old sister, Isadora, or Bear. Our son and I took Bear to Alki Beach, which is just a strip of sand and pebbles in West Seattle. We didn't bring any toys. We didn't bring any buckets. We didn't bring shovels. We didn't bring beach balls. So Bear and I sat and ran our hands in the sand and in the pebbles, and we shared those treasures that we found with one another. I used my son's empty coffee cup to get up and get some wet sand to create a sandcastle. A few days later, my son texted me that Bear was looking for pebbles in their yard and handing them to him. And lo, another rockhound is born. Will this hobby require special equipment in the future? It could, or it could need nothing more than pockets and a willingness to wander. In play, we play at relationships. Children take on, try on roles regardless of gender. They use their imaginations to create invisible friends and fantasy worlds. And play often teaches us how to share or not share, how to take turns with and without the drama and screaming. They teach us about cooperation or lack thereof, that competition thing, the screaming of mine, and about notions of scarcity and abundance. Play teaches us about time and transitions, and about being a part of a group rather than just being an individual. Maybe one child will always dominate or lead a group. Or another one can be heard complaining, that's not fair. Life isn't fair. And better to start learning that in a low-risk, non-life and death context. Yes, our work lives allow for most of the above, but it does so too often in a winner-take-all mode. You've heard that expression, right? He with the most toys wins, meaning when they die. If play is all about the emergence of and development of human beings, work seems to be about combat and a lack of maybe authenticity. Could play be our redemption? Our reclaiming of what has been forgotten or lost? Apparently, children tend to stop playing at age 9. Why? Fitness expert Steve Ettinger says that as kids get older, school demands go up, as well as the use of technology. And children become less likely to participate in free play or to want to go outside. Regular play also becomes less accessible. Instead, as children transition into middle school, play goes from recess and an outside time to after school and to organized sports and groups. If you're not interested in any of those, you might just stop playing. Parents that were surveyed identified the following barriers to play. Kids want to play with technology. Kids are too busy. There's a cost often to equipment or participation. There's a lack of safe places for children to play, or that the child simply doesn't enjoy playing. How have we managed to make play a commodity that can be bought and sold? So if we all seem to have stopped playing at age 9, we have a lot of learning about how to play as adults. Play can, for all ages, boost emotional, mental, and physical well-being. Play can relieve stress. It allows endorphins, the body's natural feel-good chemicals, to be released. It can enhance brain function when you engage in cognitively challenging games, puzzles, word games, memory games, math games. Games can, or play can boost creativity, and it can stimulate the imagination. And play reduces social isolation. It can mitigate depression, and it can increase connection, trust, and intimacy. Play can improve social skills if those skills happen to be rusty. And I suspect as we begin to return to in-person groups meeting again, even in the COVID pandemic, this is going to be a skill that we're going to have to focus on. For some of us, after 15, 16, 17 months, have lost a lot of our social skills. Watching folks whose lives have been given over to work and responsibility try to play can be painful. Something that often came naturally to us in our early years seems to be buried in and gone underground in our psyches. Not all adult play has to be wild or outrageous or salacious. And I'm not suggesting a return to childhood, but an uncovering and a remembering of how you played as a child. Are you someone who needed to move, to use your brain, do board games, make things, use your hands? Did you need to play with others, play alone? Did you need equipment, supplies, special clothing? Were there things you could do anywhere? Did your play end in an accomplishment, such as creating a wooden block structure? What worked for you? What gave you pleasure? This past week in our online gathering of Coffee, Tea, and Thee, I asked the adults gathered there what they did for play. And I kept my mouth shut as they spoke until I couldn't stand it anymore, because folks were naming things like reading and organizing. Now, I happen to love both of those activities, but I don't consider them play. They're things that are enjoyed. There's a difference between enjoyment and play. I associate an element of abandonment and outrageousness and exploration and fun with play. I get that for some folks, reading and organizing fulfills those things, but having shared some of the ways I play as an adult, you can perhaps understand why I reacted the way I did. Now, not surprisingly, you can Google suggestions for how to play and how to incorporate play into your adult lives. One person suggested scheduling it into your calendar. Again, I get it, but please, that eradicates spontaneity. They now make adult Play-Doh. Just how does that differ from children's Play-Doh? It seems like a marketing ploy to me. A few years ago, adult coloring books became all the rage, which promptly set off a colored pencil shortage in this country. Now, I still have trouble with spatial relationships, and thanks to friends, I have begun doing jigsaw puzzles. I am not good at them, but I am determined. Note to self, do not buy puzzles based on the pretty pictures because they tend to be impossible. Forest bathing's become a thing. What about making sandcastles or sculptures or writing poems in the sand? How about swinging in a hammock, having a water fight, or setting up a sprinkler for the neighborhood and having adults set up their chairs under them? Have you played croquet lately? Perhaps in your thrift store whites? Organize a pet and person parade in your apartment complex. Now, what about those hula hoops? You remember them? Uno or Skip-Bo or dominoes, mindless games. They allow you to talk trash to one another. Marbles, jacks, blowing bubbles, watching clouds and naming the shapes they make, charades, ping pong, making music, word games, rope courses, riding horses, video games, online games, skipping rocks, pillow fights, frisbee, catch, team sports, activities that make you laugh or bring out your hidden competitive nature. I know that play is not a cure-all for what has happened to our planet. I know it's not going to save our Earth or humanity or bring peace with justice, but it can, if even for a moment, allow the pressure valve of our human realities to be released. It can allow communication across difference. It can allow us to cooperate rather than to compete. It allows us to regain a small piece of childhood freedom that's been lost. It can allow us to be more of who we were and who we are with a slight lightness of being. It is living water for our thirsting spirits and hearts. The Lebanese poet Khalil Gibran wrote, "And forget not that the earth delights to feel your bare feet, and the winds long to play with your hair." Run that image in your mind. See it, feel it, be it, even if it is only a memory.
We're delighted to again provide a space for this community to join our hearts together to share our joys and our sorrows. We now welcome you to do this in the chat. The best prayers are often our communal ones. We together lift up our joys of being and playing together in so many different ways. For campfires, laughter, game upon games, and the pets in our lives who help us to play, the family members and the friends. We lift up also all the sorrows that we hold in our hearts. We hold them with and for each other. May our sorrows pass today with ease and our joys be lasting and deep. Blessings for love and play to enter our experiences today.
Please join us in singing our closing hymn, number 311, Let It Be a Dance.
Tis the gift to be simple, tis the gift to be free, to play, loosen, laugh. Tis a gift to bow and bend, dance and pretend. We will not be ashamed to play and let go, but will rather turn until our lives come alive and glow again. May it be so, so be it. Amen.